Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. A very interesting Week 4 matchup as the UCF Knights kick off their Big 12 journey, heading on the road and playing the defending Big 12 champs, the Kansas State Wildcats. Really excited to get into some of the storylines and key matchups presented in this game. Now, before we do, again, just want to say thank you to you guys. The support that you guys have shown for all these game breakdowns truly has been phenomenal. I've had a blast doing these, but more importantly, I've had a blast talking ball with you guys in the comment section. I learn a lot from you guys. I love talking ball with you guys. So if you do enjoy the content, one, consider subscribing to the channel, but more importantly, let me know in the comment section how you guys are feeling about this matchup. And without further ado, let's get into this. And I want to start with this UCF offense going up against the Kansas State defense that is really, really strong in the front seven. You take a look at some of the advanced numbers. Kansas State allowing 1.8 yards per carry to opposing running backs. They're 6th in the country in sacks. They're 15th in the country in TFLs. This is a Kansas State front seven that really lives behind the line of scrimmage. And this is a UCF team that wants to run the football. And UCF's been doing a really good job running the football, right? RJ Harvey and Johnny Richardson both averaging over 6 yards per carry. And that's kind of where the battle starts, right? Can UCF establish the run against a Kansas State team that is really, really strong on the defensive side of the ball? Now, a big storyline in this game, John Rice Plumlee, starting quarterback for UCF, one of the most dynamic and exciting quarterbacks that you'll see across the country, won't be playing in this game. What I'll say about Timmy McClain is I'm not saying he is John Rice Plumlee, but I am saying that he has very similar skill sets to what John Rice Plumlee brings. So UCF brought him in for a reason. So he's quarterback too. When it's his time to go, the offense doesn't change. Like, he can do a lot. He can run the same offense that John Rice Plumlee can run for UCF. And I will say this, Gus Malzahn and that coaching staff, historically, even dating back to their time at Auburn, have done a really nice job kind of working in new quarterbacks. It's not a ultra-heavy quarterback-dependent system. Auburn's done a really good job under Gus Malzahn using a plethora of different quarterbacks. And Timmy McClain, I think, is certainly capable of running this UCF offense and looked really good against Villanova, which was a nice game for him to get his feet wet, get him working with the wide receivers, some easy throws. They looked really strong against Villanova. Now Kansas State is going to present a much bigger test in terms of how good this defense is. What I'll say, and I think the key to this game is, one, running the football. Can you get anything going on the ground against the Kansas State front seven that's really good? But the second one is taking the deep shot. I mean, Kansas State was so good against Missouri stopping the run. Guys like Austin Moore, Daniel Green, Khalid Duke, like really, really quality front seven for Kansas State. But Chris Klieman even said in his presser, and Kansas State fans saw it on the field, what kind of got them was giving up the big play to guys like Luther Burden against Missouri. And UCF, I think, will try to attack a very similar kind of game plan. Is trying to hit those explosive plays. And UCF, what doesn't get talked enough about is how talented these wide receivers are for UCF, right? Javon Baker, Kobe Hudson, Xavier Townsend, 3 wide receivers that kind of rival a lot of the wide receiver groups that you see in the Big 12. These guys can hit explosive plays. This is an explosive offense that's averaging over 8.5 yards per play. So can UCF get something going explosive down the field where Kansas State kind of struggled against Missouri would be something I'm sure Gus Malzahn and this offensive staff are kind of looking to do. And that's kind of will be the story of the game. Can you run the football against Kansas State and their really good front seven? And then 2, can you hit those explosive plays? Now, on the flip side, Kansas State also has some quarterback concerns, right? Will Howard clearly dinged up against Missouri in that second half. They were using Avery Johnson, the true freshman, to kind of be that quarterback that gives them some dynamic athleticism on the ground. What I think we'll see, and I'm not like really in touch with this situation, is I'd be surprised if Will Howard doesn't go. But in those situations where they want to use the quarterback in the run game, Avery Johnson will come in, kind of like what you saw against Missouri. Now, Avery Johnson, extremely talented quarterback coming out of high school, is a massive get for Chris Klieman. He can throw the ball too, but I would expect to see Avery Johnson using his legs, using his athleticism in absence of Will Howard and the banged up ankle. But I do think Will Howard will be that quarterback that when we got to throw the football, that's when Will Howard comes in. And I like this Kansas State offense, right? I think you got 2 really good running backs in DJ Giddens and Trayshawn Ward, a really good offensive line led by Beebe that I still think can be better. This is a group that I thought was going to be elite in 2023. I don't know if we've seen elite offensive line play yet, but I think it has the guys to be really good. Then UCF on defense, I mean, they've been putting up some really good numbers, right? 3.3 yards per carry to opposing teams, only giving up a 42% completion percentage in the back end. Can Kansas State get something going through the air? Now, Kansas State wants to run the football. Don't get me wrong, but I think they'll be able, they need to throw a little bit to beat this UCF team. UCF's really good in the back end. That being said, Kansas State has some wide receivers. I think it's a really balanced attack, right? You look at all the wide receivers that they have been getting the ball to. You look at Phillip Brooks. I think probably the most dynamic and talented wide receiver of the group. Ben Sinnott, I think a legitimate tight end prospect in the NFL draft, can kind of do it all. RJ Garcia, Jaden Jackson. There's a lot of guys that can hurt UCF in a similar way. UCF has a lot of guys that can hurt Kansas State on the defensive side of the ball. I think the biggest storylines before we kind of get into the pick are quarterback play, right? Obviously, you have a backup quarterback for UCF and Timmy McClain, who we haven't seen tested yet. And then you have a banged-up Will Howard with a potential true freshman Avery Johnson that's going to be getting a lot of snaps. Who can limit the turnovers? Who can move the ball at a more consistent level? Again, UCF's defense, really, really good. Guys like John Walker, Lee Hunter in the middle, they've been really good for UCF. Getting to the pick here, UCF going on the road, 7.5-point underdogs. Here, my take on this, and if you guys have been listening all offseason, you know I'm high on UCF. I think this UCF team is a very quality Big 12 team, and a lot of people kind of write them off as a Group of 5 team that's going to have to adjust to the Big 12 level. I don't think that's the case. I think UCF beats a lot of teams in the Big 12. That being said, I think Kansas State is one of the best teams in the Big 12. With the question marks at quarterback for UCF, I'm leaning Kansas State. I think they'll be able to lean on the run game a little bit more. Will Howard, if he can go, is more experienced. He's played in a lot of big games versus Timmy McClain, who's played a lot of football going back to his time at UCF, but I don't think he's ever played a defense like Kansas State. I think this game's close. I don't definitely not rush into the betting counter to take Kansas State to cover the 7.5 points. That being said, at home in Manhattan, Kansas, I really like how complete this Kansas State team is. I mean, I think they're physical on both sides of the line of scrimmage. They can run the football. They can stop the run. Those are good recipes to be winning in conference play. UCF, can they hit those explosive plays? And if they can, I expect this game to be extremely good. I think it's going to be good regardless, but I will take Kansas State to win this game. I'm definitely not taking them to cover the 7.5, as I do think UCF is a very quality opponent, especially with Kansas State dealing with some injuries at quarterback. Going to be a good one. Can't wait to watch UCF open up their Big 12 journeys again. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, again, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.